Adding a discussion board is pretty simple. Begin by going into your course and then turning editing on. Once editing is on, we're going to scroll down to the week that we want to add our discussion board to. Right now, let's do it in week 1. I'm going to click Add an Activity or Resource. Choose Forum from the pop-up menu, and then click Add. Once this page loads, the first thing you want to do is go over here and click Expand All. This is going to open up all of our options. Now, in the General section, you're going to give your discussion board a name. And then in the description is where you're going to actually post your question. You can add any references that you want in there. I've already copy and pasted my discussion question, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in here now. If I do want to edit this, I can click on Show Editing Tools. And I can change this as I like. Now, this forum type we're going to come back to in a little bit. We've got a few different options for our discussion boards, and I'll go over those in detail a little bit later. For now, let's just stick with standard forum. Now let's look at the rest of the settings. We're going to start with attachments and word count. Here you can see our maximum attachment size. If you click on the drop-down menu, you can adjust the size of the files that you allow students to upload to the discussion board. Now this could be files like images or PowerPoints or Word documents, something that they can share with other people, anything that they want to share with the rest of the class. You can adjust this to not allow anything, and all the way up to typically 100 megabytes. Now that's a pretty large size. Usually that's more than enough. So I'm going to stick actually with about 2 megabytes. That's a good size. People can add images if they want. We'll go down to maximum number of attachments. Obviously, you can set this to 9, to 100, up to 1. The choice is yours. By default, it sets to 9. And then display word count. This is optional. You can have this display how many words are in the post or not. I'm going to leave it no. Now let's go ahead and scroll down and look at the rest of the settings. The first two we can talk about are subscription and tracking, and then post threshold for blocking. Subscription and tracking is pretty self-explanatory. Here you can actually determine whether or not students are automatically subscribed to this discussion board. What does subscription get you? Well, when someone makes a post on a discussion board, Moodle will actually email that post to the student and to you if you subscribe to this as well. Now, typically, we like to leave subscriptions optional for students so they're not inundated with a ton of email messages from Moodle. But again, if this is a very important discussion board and you want to make sure no one misses anything, you can set this to subscribe by force. Right there. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it as optional subscription. Read tracking will actually show you what posts you've read and what posts you haven't. So we'll go ahead and leave it optional, as this is personal for every student. Post threshold for blocking, you can actually set a time period in between how many days you want between students' postings. For example, if you want them to do certain postings on day 1 and then not be able to post again until 3 or 4 days later, you can set it here. Typically we don't block how often students can post to a discussion board, but again, you may find a use for it. Alright, let's scroll down a little bit more. The grade category deals with the grade book. This is a way for us to organize all of the things that are actually worth points or valuable in the grade book. Right now we don't have any categories set up, so this is going to be empty. And we'll go over setting up categories later. Ratings is where we're going to set the point value for the discussion board. Let's set this to about 20 points. So I'm going to go change the aggregate type from no ratings to sum of ratings. This part doesn't really matter. Typically we'll just manually input the grades that we want for the students, but sum of ratings is fine. For scale, I'm going to go ahead and make it worth 20 points. And now as soon as I put a grade in for this item is going to transfer and show up in the gradebook automatically for me. And I can restrict my discussion board to only allow ratings for postings that fall in between a certain date. Right? I'm going to go ahead and leave this blank though. The common module settings. Visible determines whether or not, when you save this, if this is visible to the students or not right away. The group mode and the groupings mode, you really don't need to worry about right now. We'll go over groups a little bit later in our tutorials. And then finally we have restrict access. You can actually allow access to and from the discussion board at certain times. You can also set a grade condition. For example, they can't access the discussion board unless they get 95 on a quiz. These are all settings that you can use if you want. Typically, we can leave them blank. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit Save and Display. And there you have it. There's my discussion board. You can see that there's a button, Add a New Discussion Topic. Students will see the exact same thing. So when they come to the discussion board and they're ready to post a discussion, they're going to click Add a New Discussion Topic, and they can input their text.